Have you ever felt the world shift under your feet, the solid ground turning to quicksand in a single, gut-wrenching moment? That's what it felt like, standing there in the cold Chicago drizzle. Watching my wife, my Sarkis, another man on the steps of the Art Institute. She was supposed to be at a late-night client dinner in the Loop, but there she was. Under the stoic gaze of the bronze lions on Michigan Avenue, her hands wrapped around his neck, her laughter a sound I thought was reserved only for me. I felt the hot sting of tears mix with the rain on my face. How long had this been going on? What else was a lie? If you want to hear how this story of betrayal unfolds, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. For 10 years, Sarah and I had built a life together in our little two-flat in Lincoln Park. We'd met at DePaul, 2 kids with big dreams. I became an architect, she a high-powered marketing exec. Our life was perfect, or so I thought. The late nights started about 6 months ago. It's just a big campaign, honey, she'd say, her voice tired over the phone. We're pushing for a huge new client. I'd have dinner waiting, which would grow cold on the stove. I'd fall asleep alone, waking only when she'd slip into bed in the early hours, smelling of faint perfume in the city night. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I trusted her more than I trusted myself. But little things started to feel off. A new expensive-looking watch on her wrist she claimed she bought for herself. A sudden obsession with a spin class she'd previously mocked. Her phone, once left casually on the kitchen counter, was now permanently attached to her hip, screen down. One evening I tried to give her a hug from behind while she was texting. She flinched, pulling the phone to her chest like I was trying to steal state secrets. "Just work, Mark," she'd snapped, her eyes cold. "You're so clingy lately." The word clingy echoed in my head. I was just trying to love my wife. The man she was kissing, I recognized him from a company photo she'd shown me once. His name was David. He was her boss, smug, silver-haired, the kind of guy who wore his success like a tailored suit. Seeing them together, it wasn't just a betrayal. It was a humiliation. It was everything I wasn't. Older, wealthier, more powerful. I felt small, insignificant. The man she came home to every night after being with him. That night I drove home in a daze, the city lights blurring through my tears. When she finally walked in around 2 a.m., humming a little tune, I was sitting in the dark. She jumped. "Mark," scared me. "Why are you sitting here like a creep?" I just looked at her. "How was the client dinner?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "Oh, she said, waving a dismissive hand. "Long, boring. Same old, same old." She kissed my cheek, a quick, dry peck. It felt like being touched by a ghost. That was the night something inside me broke. The love, the trust, the future I'd imagined, it all shattered. And in its place, something cold and hard began to form. Revenge. Not the loud screaming kind. No, this would be quiet, meticulous. A complete and total dismantling of the life she thought she had. The next day I called in sick to work. I went to a tech store and bought a small, high-quality audio recorder. That evening I told Sarah I needed to go to a site inspection out of state for a few days. She barely looked up from her laptop. "Okay, honey, be safe," she said, her focus already back on the screen. The moment I left, I circled the block, parked down the street, and waited. An hour later, David's sleek black Mercedes pulled up to our home. My home. He walked in without even knocking. I didn't storm in, just sat in my car, the audio from the bug I'd planted under our coffee table, feeding directly to my phone. I heard everything, their laughter, their plans for a future trip to Italy, a trip we're supposed to take for our anniversary. I heard them mock me. "He's so naive," Sarah giggled, a sound that ripped through me like shrapnel. "He actually believes I'm working. It's poor, sweet, pathetic Mark." David laughed. "Don't worry, babe. Once this merger is finalized and I'm CEO, you won't have to pretend anymore. We'll have it all." My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. Pathetic Mark. The words burned into my brain. For the next 2 months, I became a ghost in my own life. I was the perfect, supportive husband. I made her dinner, listened to her fake stories about work, and never once let the mask slip. Meanwhile, I was gathering my army. I hired the best divorce lawyer in Chicago, a shark named Ms. Thompson. I showed her my evidence, the audio recordings, the photos I took, the credit card statements for hotel rooms and expensive gifts. She smiled, a grim, satisfied smile. "She's not just cheating, Mr. Collins," she said. "She's using marital funds to finance the affair. We can nail her on a dissipation of assets claim." Next, I hired a private investigator to dig into David. It turned out he wasn't just cheating on his wife, he was cheating on his company. My PI found evidence he was using company funds for his lavish lifestyle with Sarah, hiding it under fake expense reports. He was also in the middle of a massive company-defining merger. His reputation needed to be spotless. This was getting better and better. The day I chose for my revenge was the day of her company's annual gala, the night the big merger was being announced. David was set to be named the new CEO. Sarah bought a stunning, ridiculously expensive red dress for the occasion. She looked beautiful, a radiant, triumphant queen. "Wish me luck, honey," she said, kissing me goodbye. "Tonight's a big night." I smiled, a real smile this time. "Oh, I know," I said. "Break a leg." As she left, my plan went into motion. First, an anonymous email, complete with audio files and photos, was sent to David's wife. Second, a comprehensive package of evidence detailing his corporate fraud was sent to the board of directors of both his company and the one they were merging with. The delivery was timed to arrive an hour before the gala started. Finally, I made one last call to Sarah's parents, devout, old-fashioned people who adored me and believed their daughter was a saint. I simply said, "There's something you need to hear," and played them the recording of Sarah and David mocking me. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. I didn't go to the gala, sat at home in our living room with a glass of whiskey. I imagined the scene. The whispers starting as board members were pulled into private rooms, the frantic phone calls. I pictured David's wife, a woman I'd met a few times at company parties, receiving that email. I pictured Sarah, standing there in her blood-red dress, her world catching fire around her. Around 10 p.m., my front door burst open. It was Sarah. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes wild with fury and panic. "What did you do?" She shrieked, her voice raw. "You ruined me, you ruined everything." I didn't raise my voice. I just looked at her, at this stranger standing in the home we built. "No, Sarah," I said, my voice as cold and empty as I felt. "You did? You said I was pathetic. You said I was naive. You were right about one thing. I was naive, but pathetic. No, I'm just a man who learned to play the game." She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, a broken queen in a ruined kingdom. Her phone buzzed relentlessly on the floor beside her. Her parents, her friends. The world was calling to get the story. I just watched her, feeling nothing at all. I walked past her, went into our bedroom and packed a bag. I left the house and never looked back. The last I heard, the merger had collapsed. David was fired and facing federal fraud charges. His wife left him taking everything. Sarah lost her job, her reputation, and her family's respect. She had to sell our home to pay for her legal fees. I moved out of the city to a small town by the lake. Sometimes I sit by the water and think about that night, watching her under the city lights. I won. I destroyed her, just like I planned. But all I feel is the quiet echo of an empty victory. All that's left is the silence where a life used to be. The end.